As I was stumbling around the internet, I came across a bunch of personal questions supposedly asked by Christians being answered by a couple of atheists. Well, what the hell, I'll play along. Now, I have no idea where these questions came from, and I guess it really doesn't matter. I've got no problem giving people my perspectives on things, especially when it comes to religion. When I've done so in the past, I haven't found a single theist who could really challenge the things that I've said. Therefore, I'm going to do it again, explaining why I have the positions that I have, and see if it changes anything. And I predict that it won't. Question 1. Have you ever been to church? Well, yes. Yes, I have. I was once an ardent churchgoer, probably to the point of being almost fanatical about it. I went twice on Sunday, once on Wednesday, and once to youth group. So you can't say I rejected Christianity because I didn't know anything about it. At one point in my life, I could quote almost the entire Bible from memory. I was seriously considering a life in the ministry. I absolutely believed what the Bible said and took my religious beliefs very seriously. I never had a bad experience in church. In fact, to this day, I'd still say it was overall a very positive experience. So before anyone says I was hurt by the church, or by the pastor, or by the congregation, nothing could be further from the truth. What caused me to reject Christianity was discovering that it had absolutely no evidence whatsoever to support it. It's like believing in Santa Claus. There was a point in my life where I believed in Santa Claus. Then I realized that the whole story made no sense, and I could no longer maintain that belief. God is no different than Santa Claus. We expect kids to grow up and realize that Santa's a lie, yet so many people never grow up with regards to God, and that's pathetic. Question 2. Do you have any Christian friends or family members? And if so, what do you think of their faith? Well, I once did, but now not really. Yeah, some of my family members are ostensibly Christian. They'll tell you that they believe in God, but there's absolutely no outward sign of it. My sister is an ardent atheist. My father, he had no religious beliefs before he died. My mother, who was once a dedicated churchgoer, as much as I was in fact, she hasn't been to a church in 20 years. Now, I like to tell a story about our annual Thanksgiving get-togethers where everyone was expected to pray before they ate. My family, my personal family, we didn't. Oh, we didn't distract anybody. We just sat there silently and let everybody else talk to themselves. And I think that made them uncomfortable because it wasn't too many Thanksgivings before the whole prayer thing went away and everybody just ate and had a good time. That's how my entire family is these days. If they have any personal religious beliefs, they keep it to themselves and they never talk about it or act on it or do anything publicly to show that it exists. I figured none of them really have any strong beliefs or really any beliefs at all. Even among my formerly religious friends, they've all pretty much given up. Now, I'm not trying to take credit for that, but a lot of them have said it's because of the discussions we've had over the years that they realize their beliefs in God are unjustifiable. All in all, I really think it's all worked out for the best. Question 3. What do I think of Christians? Well, that's really a hard question to answer. Personally, I have nothing against Christians or anyone else unless they've done something to earn my disdain. But I don't respect their Christianity. I think anyone who believes in imaginary friends is, at least on a certain level, an idiot. I don't try to deconvert them, nor do I allow them to try to convert me. Now, I do have some distant relatives who are, or who at least were, at the last time I saw them, missionaries. They were obnoxiously religious. These are the people who can't utter a single sentence without the word Jesus in it. And when my wife and I bought a house many years ago, we learned that we had bought one less than 5 miles away from them. They were ecstatic. We were depressed. But they wanted to hang out, and we had no interest in that, and we told them so. They eventually stopped asking because we wouldn't do it. Once in a while, I'd run into one of them at the grocery store, and we kind of waved politely, but I had zero interest in their religious antics any more than anybody else in the family did. They eventually became pariahs, and we just never saw them again. I honestly have no idea if they're alive or dead at this point. Question 4. What do you think about Jesus? Well, the Jesus described in the Bible simply never existed. There might have been someone, or more likely several someones, upon whom the mantle of godhood was posthumously draped and who got written up in the Bible, but that's not Jesus, that's mythology. Now, if you want to get into some big long discussion about the historicity of Jesus, I'm fine with that. But you better bring some pretty strong evidence for your side, and that's something that theists never seem to have. The Jesus of the Bible is no more real than any other of the man gods that we've made up throughout history. And without that Jesus, the whole of Christianity comes crashing down to its knees. Question 5. What do you think of the Bible? I think the Bible is a book of mythology. It's no more worthwhile than reading the Quran, or the Vedas, or the Egyptian Book of the Dead. The Bible is filled to the brim with horrors that I don't think anyone with half a clue could deny are horrible. But I know the Bible inside out. I know why I dislike it, and I know why I think others ought to dislike it as well. I care about facts, and I care about reality, and those are two things that simply don't appear in the Bible. Question 6. Has anyone ever preached to you personally? All the fucking time. Well, alright, more like preached at me personally. Both before and after I gave up Christianity, I was engaged in personal debates on religion, online and off. I have yet to find a theist that I don't know their holy book better than they did, and that's why I reject the contents of their book of mythology. I simply know better. I have talked to many different believers of many different things, and none of them have the evidence necessary to change my mind. Question 7. How would you feel if someone tried to persuade you to believe in Jesus? Well, today, mostly bored. These people don't have any evidence, and I know it going in that they will not have any evidence, and I'm right 100% of the time. The only thing that's ever going to convince me to believe in Jesus is objective evidence, and Christians simply have none. What's worse, they've got nothing new. All the apologetic arguments have been soundly disproven, yet Christians still trot them out because they really have no clue what they are or what they mean. And because all apologetic arguments are based on emotion, not demonstrable fact, and theists don't even care if they're true, they care how it makes them feel, it all falls apart. And I don't care how your beliefs make you feel. I care if they're factually accurate. So we basically spend a lot of time talking past each other because they don't care about facts and I don't care about feelings, and that makes all these debates totally pointless. Question 8. What are your biggest objections to Christianity? Geez, where do I start? Alright, first, it's rationally indefensible. It has no evidence to support it, and believers don't seem to care about that, which I find endlessly sad. Secondly, it is nothing but emotionally vapid. It cares only about the feelings of the believers, not about whether or not the things that believers believe are factually true. And then we can talk about the organized religions involved and how they're only interested in money and power and influence. Now, I know you can be a Christian without being tied to one of these ridiculous churches, but the majority of Christians have their butts in the pews on Sundays, not because they have any good reason to believe the teachings are true, but because it makes them feel good to believe. Anyone who does anything just because it makes them feel good is a moron. Question 9. Hypothetically speaking, if the claims of the Christian faith were proven true beyond a shadow of a doubt, would you become a Christian? And my answer is no. Oh, if you proved that the biblical God was real, I'd believe he was real. But he'd still be a dick if he was anything like he's described in the Bible. In order to get my worship, God would have to earn it, and that's not likely considering how he's described in the big book of multiple choice. I will not bow down to anyone who hasn't acted to earn my respect, and sorry Christians, your God hasn't even tried. What you describe as worship is really fear. It's being terrified of the consequences of not bowing down, and that makes you a weak and pathetic human being. Question 10. Describe your beliefs about God, salvation, the afterlife, etc. Alright, I have none, because there's no objective evidence that God exists, that there's an afterlife, or that there's anything we need salvation from, much less anyone who could grant said salvation in the first place. I'm a realist. I care about reality. I accept reality as reality is, regardless of how that might make me feel. If something cannot be demonstrated to be reasonable in reality, I'm not going to believe it. Gods fall into the same category as unicorns and leprechauns. There's no reason to take them seriously, therefore I don't. Come on back when you have something besides an emotional attachment to the idea. I don't care about your empty claims. I care about your objective evidence. And let's be honest, Christians have none. You know, the more I talk to theists, I realize that it would be interesting to have an actual intellectual discussion with one. But I don't think any intellectual theists exist, or at the very least, I've never come across one. I can't even really imagine what a Christian who came to their beliefs through totally rational means would even look like, because I can't think of any path by which one would come to a belief in God rationally. What objective evidence is there in the world that would convince someone intellectually? I don't think it exists. Therefore, theists only care about their emotions, and I don't give a damn what they feel like. I only care what they can prove, and they can't prove anything. That's what makes these interactions between rational people and religious people so utterly pointless. Neither side has the slightest interest in what brings the other side to the table, and that makes the whole exercise ridiculous. One side only cares about the evidence, the other side has no evidence whatsoever. One side will only be convinced by what's presented, and the other side has nothing to present. That's why religious debates never go anywhere. There's a fundamental disconnect on the theist side from rational and critical thought. So while I'm happy to answer questions from theists, I've got no problem with taking apart theist arguments. Actually sitting down and having a discussion with these people and hoping for a positive outcome is pointless because their idea of a positive outcome and my idea of a positive outcome are diametrically opposed. And unfortunately, I suspect they always will be.